The people who said no and still have an overlay. A deeper look at the integration era's purists, and the one thing none of them can refuse. There are people in this world who have looked at the system, understood exactly what it is doing, and decided they will not participate. They don't develop their stats. They don't consult the overlay. In the strictest communities, they will not say their integration level out loud, because saying it would concede that the number means something. The system measures them anyway. That is the whole strange shape of purist life, and it is more interesting than the word purist suggests. The most principled, most sophisticated rejection of the integration anywhere in known space is carried out by people the system is still actively watching. Naming, ranking, filing. You can refuse the reading. You cannot stop being read. So, first, this is not the version you're picturing. If you've heard of purists at all, you've probably heard about the loud ones. The militant enclaves who answer the system by doubling down on everything humanity built before it arrived. Railguns, power armor, AI they wrote themselves and can take apart when it fails. That version is real, and it makes for a good silhouette. It is also the shallow end. Purism is a spectrum, not a faction. At the mild end are people who simply have an overlay and never look at it. They treat the system's notifications the way you'd treat a rating app you never opened. Present and ignorable. Further in are communities organized around refusal as a way of life. Further still are the ideological enclaves where consulting your stats is a private failing, and reciting your integration level is a public one. What they share isn't a weapon, it's a position. That the system is not a legitimate frame for a human life, and that the dignified response is to live as if it weren't there. A century in, that position has had time to become an argument. And the argument is good. Here is the argument at its strongest. It is tempting to treat purists as people who haven't done the math, as if, shown the right stat screen, they'd come around. They've done the math. Here is the case at its sharpest, the version their best thinkers actually make. First, the system's categories are not ours. The 6 attributes have names, but the names are translations. Rough human approximations of an alien framework that was never built around human philosophy. Nobody asked whether frame, or echo, or drive are the right axes on which to measure a person. The system arrived with the axes already chosen. We learned to speak its taxonomy because it was the only one that came with a voice. Second, the criteria were set without consent. Whatever the architects were optimizing for when they built the measurement, they built it before they met us, and they have never explained it. To accept your designation as a verdict on who you are is to accept a judgment rendered by an authority that never consulted the thing it was judging. The purist declines the verdict, not because the number is wrong, but because no one ever agreed the number got to decide. Third, and this is the one that lands hardest, living under constant quantification does something to a person, whether or not the numbers are accurate. You cannot be fully inside a moment while also reading its attribute deltas. A mind that checks the overlay before it decides becomes a different kind of mind. The purist isn't arguing that the system measures you badly. They're arguing that being measured all the time by anything is its own kind of harm. Accuracy is beside the point. You don't have to be persuaded by all 3. You should notice that none of them are stupid. Now, the discipline of not looking. The oldest of these traditions don't argue at all. They practice. In the quiet communities, the contemplatives, the enclaves out on the deep fringe where the integration runs thin to begin with, children are taught the overlay exists before they can read it. It is named, not hidden, and then it is set aside. The discipline isn't ignorance, it's attention, aimed somewhere else on purpose. Live in the moment, pay attention. The notification flickers in the corner of the eye, and you let it go, and you keep your eyes on the world in front of you, and the people in it. Do it for a childhood, and it becomes a reflex. Do it for a lifetime, and you've built a self the system narrates to an empty room. It is a beautiful way to live, and it has a cost the creed can't quite name. The system is not passive. It responds. It attends to individuals. The purist is not ignoring a billboard. They are declining to look back at something that may be looking at them. And the one day the discipline of not looking meets something that is genuinely worth seeing is the day the whole practice gets tested. Which brings us to the thing none of them can refuse. Here is where the refusal runs out of road. Even the most committed enclave, 3 generations deep into a zero-stat norm, still has the overlay running. Every member's stats exist. Every designation is on file or pending. The system is accumulating its record in real time, in people who have organized their entire lives around the conviction that the record is illegitimate. They can refuse to read it. They cannot make it stop being written. The system doesn't care what you believe. It registered you within days of first contact, and it has not paused since. Belief is not an input it accepts. Refusal is not a setting it offers. To the system, the most principled purist and the most avid rift grinder are the same kind of object. A thing being measured, producing data, whether or not it consents to the reading, which leaves the question the purists live inside and can't fully answer. If you cannot remove the overlay, if saying no changes your conduct but not your file, is the refusal a choice, or just another behavior the system is quietly logging? Is I will not look an act of freedom, or the most precise self-portrait a person can hand to something that never stops watching? The most disciplined people in this world have spent 100 years learning not to read one sentence. The system wrote it anyway, and it's still there, waiting in the corner of the eye, exactly as patient as it has always been. The new story goes inside one of these communities. It's called Unread, and it's out now for members. It follows a young man raised on the deep fringe to let the system's notifications flicker past, unread, on the day the system finally has something he can't afford to miss. It is the creed from the inside, and what the creed costs. Patrons have had it since June 23rd. Members can read it today. Not a member yet? Free membership at integratiera.com puts every new story and post in your inbox the day it goes public. No designation required, though you have one regardless. The Integration Era is a science fiction series about a world remade by an alien system nobody asked for. You've been listening to The Integration Era by Charlie Forrett. All content is copyright 2026 by Charlie Forrett. All rights reserved. Voices produced by Speechify. New stories, world-building deep dives, character dossiers, and more are available now at integrationera.com. Subscribe to get notified when the next post drops. The system is watching. You might as well keep up.